Good morning. On behalf of the Alliance of Women in Workers' Compensation, I want to welcome you to today's webinar. Today's webinar is entitled Together We Rise. This keynote session was pre-recorded during the National Work Comp Conference in October of 2022 and is being broadcast today, December 1st, 2022. Before we get started, I would like to thank our corporate sponsors for their support on hosting events such as this. They support us not because they want their logos up on a screen, but they support the cause, which is to effect positive change in the workers' compensation industry through networking, supporting, mentoring, and collaboration. The Alliance is inclusive of all professionals in workers' compensation, regardless of career stage, with the belief that we can all learn from and support each other. Be sure to head to the Alliance website for all upcoming events. We do have one more virtual event this year, and there's still plenty of time to register. Be sure to check back on our website for details. If you cannot make our upcoming event or want to check out any past events, don't worry. All events are on demand for our followers on our website. Our theme this year is Acknowledge, Adjust, Advance. Each quarter, our webinar and events will be centered on each mini theme. This quarter, we focus our topics around Elevate Together. Be sure to join in these discussions as we facilitate both virtual and in-person events. I'm excited to announce that next year's theme is Together Towards Tomorrow. Stay tuned for more information regarding our 2023 content with virtual and in-person events coming soon. Have you joined our book club yet? This year we launched our book club with 6 books by previous keynote speakers from Alliance events. If you love reading, be sure to head to the website to sign up and join. There is still time to join this quarter for our final book club selection on December 13th, and we will be announcing our 2023 book club information soon. The Alliance has grown so much this year as we have launched several new chapters. Be sure to connect with your local ambassador for upcoming events. Change is preceded by trust. It is through acceptance and inclusion that trust will be formed and positive impact will occur. The Alliance is committed to creating a safe space in the workers' compensation industry for women of diverse backgrounds and experiences through a shared culture that integrates various perspectives. This is who we are and who we will be. The time to do better and be better is now. The Alliance understands that diversity is a journey that will take time to make meaningful changes for our organization, its followers, and its supporters. We will be intentional in making progress along our key pillars of change. Turning to today's webinar. Today we will hear a keynote session from the authors of Together We Rise. United by a shared passion to lift other women and fueled by the undercurrent of the unknown at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Lady Leaders Book Club banded together to write a book about staying afloat, creating and seizing opportunities, and establishing yourself as a powerful woman in the business world. Together We Rise recounts the uplifting true stories of 15 passionate and unbreakable lady leaders. Authors Lauren Jones and Anna Frazzetto will share pivotal moments in their lives and careers, including struggles to rise up and stand out in one of the many industries today with too few women at the highest ranks. Lauren Jones is the founder and CEO of Leap Consulting Solutions. She has been a leader, influencer, and innovator in the staffing industry for just over 24 years. Lauren's obsession for technology has helped shape her career and provide a stellar reputation as a tech stack expert, an industry trailblazer, and a business operations guru. Lauren has been named top 15 staffing professionals to watch in 2021 and the Power List of top 200 thought influencers to watch in 2021. Her LinkedIn vlog has grown her following with hashtag days like hashtag Technology Tuesday and hashtag Women Crush Wednesday as her most popular segments. Lauren is active in her community, supporting organizations such as NCL, Women's Empowerment, St. John's Program, and more. Anna Frazzetto is the Senior Revenue Officer for Kore1 Staffing and is an IT solutions strategist whose digital transformation and data analytics expertise guides businesses of all sizes and industries. As CRO, she is dedicated to helping organizations expand their digital capabilities, embrace innovation, and tackle business challenges by leveraging data analytics, cloud, social, and mobile technology. Anna has been on the staffing industry Analysts Global Power 150 Women in Staffing for the last 5 consecutive years. She is a regular contributor to CIO.com and sits on the Forbes Technology Council. A sought-after speaker on digital innovation, outsourcing, and workplace diversity, she was named to SIA's Top 50 DEI Influencers list in 2021. Anna is also passionate about advocating to increase the numbers and influence of women in technology. She is currently the national chair of ARA, an organization committed to attracting, retaining, and advancing women in IT. Although this is a pre-recorded session, please feel free to share your comments and questions with the attendees through the Zoom chat feature you see on your screen. We love seeing our followers engage during our sessions. Thank you so much for the time you're spending with us today, and we truly hope you enjoy this webinar.
Are we on? Can you hear us? Yes, yes, yes?
There we go. All right.
Thank you so much for having us. I'm Lauren Jones. As Jennifer said, I'm so excited to be here to share our story. And we were really adamant that we wanted to have a conversation with everybody, that we wanted this to be an open environment where you're free to ask questions as we're discussing and talking. We're going to have some roundtable discussions after we get done sharing our stories. And I'm really excited about this because women supporting women is unique. And we're going to share some of those stories. Go ahead.
First of all, I love the fact that I feel like I'm sitting at the set of Friends, okay? As soon as I walked in, I'm like, this is perfect. We're actually going to make this.
What was it called?
Central Perks.
Central Perk.
There we go. We got Central Perks right here.
Love it.
Yes, it's an honor to be here today. And I have to tell you, one of the things that really kind of motivates me about talking about what we're going to talk about today is how do we lift each other up, right? And it sounds like such a basic thing and such a simple thing, but it's amazing how many challenges we probably could go around the room and you could talk about challenges that you've experienced. So how do we change that? We all can make a difference, one person at a time. I used to have a manager of consulting that worked for me, and every time we were about to embark on a really large project, she would say to me, I would say, oh my goodness, how are we gonna get this done, and trying to get organized. And she would say, Anna, how do you eat an elephant? One small piece at a time. And that's exactly how we can make a difference. One individual at a time. So I look forward to us talking about this.
Me too. Okay, so together we rise. Let's talk a little bit about the origin story. So we were 15 women. Some of us had met each other in person, some of us had not. There were deeper relationships than others, kind of a typical friends group, right? And we were going to an industry conference, March 9th of 2020. I opened my firm, this is usually my opening punchline, I opened my firm on March 2nd of 2020, having no idea that the world was gonna come crumbling down on us, but that's a story for another day. But we were getting together on March 9th in Florida for a conference, and one of our authors, Joyce Russell, who writes in her chapter about psychological raises, actually wrote her first book, which was Cherry on Top, a life of leadership and giving. It's a fantastic book. If you haven't read Cherry on Top, you must, Joyce Russell. So we decided to have a dinner. Everybody was getting together, and then COVID happened. No conference. So what did we do? We did what everybody else was doing. We got on Zoom. But after that first Zoom call, there was this, I don't know, electricity, I guess. There was something there. And so we were like, you want to do this again? So at the second one, we said, do you want to start a book club? And born, here we are, was the Lady Leaders Book Club, because, I'm always one to put a brand on it, right? And we did yoga together. We didn't just do books. We did virtual yoga. We did a virtual cooking class. And we created these close connections, the 15 of us. And then we started having female authors come to the book club. And not to outdo one another, we ended up having Heather Monahan, Erica Keswin, Gay Gaddis. I mean, some big names come to the, because we just were competitive little spirits, and so we just kept trying to one-up each other on the authors that we could bring to the table. I was like, I'm gonna get Brene Brown, right? She is coming. But she hasn't come yet, nor has she returned my emails, but we're gonna get there. So we had Michelle Prince come. She's the author of Power of Authority. She is also a publisher. And she said, you know what, you guys should write a book. And we said, okay. And I don't think anybody on the call was like, yeah, this is gonna happen. But sure enough, we decided to begin the process of writing our chapters. And each one of us, there was no collaboration, which I think is the beautiful thing about the book if you look at it now. There was no collaboration on our themes, what we were talking about. And as we have now, a year later, looked at the totality of the chapters, we have these 5 reoccurring themes. Whether it's women supporting women, taking risks, trauma, dealing with childhood trauma or dealing with adult trauma. I mean, there's so much goodness in the book to help other women. And that has been our mission to the degree. And so I made a commitment that I was not going to be a part of women not supporting women. And in 2021, I said one deliberate act a day to help another woman rise. And then Together We Rise hashtag started taking off, Women Crush Wednesday, and then we had this virility happening with the book. To date, we have been able to sponsor 8 scholarships for the American Staffing Association. Those scholarships enable other rising stars to attend conferences that they otherwise may not be funded to do. And so we're sort of pouring, every penny of the book has gone to help other women rise. And so that is our story. We finally, at one of our events, were able to all meet each other because, keep in mind, COVID was still going on. We still hadn't been everyone hadn't met. So now we've all met, now we've all connected, and we're already talking about book number 2. So I can't express the excitement that I have in the legacy that we can leave for other women. To learn from the mistakes that we've made or learn from the mistakes from others, because remember, you learn as much from people who do it right as we do from the people that do it wrong. And so we want to continue to share those lessons, and I'll shut up now and let you talk.
Oh, thank you, Lauren. It's amazing to me, every time I hear the story, I get goosebumps, right? And I was part of the journey, because it's remarkable that you had 15 executives that are in opposite parts of the country, have not come together other than via Zoom, and yet we write a book and you see the common themes. And that was the part that really kind of got to me, and that was, I think we kind of walked away saying, oh, this message needs to be shared and it needs to be told over and over again, because what we would like to do is obviously have a positive impact for the future generations, right? There's lots of statistics that you see out there as far as like, how do you close the gender gap? How do you get pay equality? How do you, create a truly diverse and inclusive environment? And it takes years. That's not gonna happen within our lifetime. Well, I refuse to accept that. We all do, and we say we can make a change one step at a time. So when I had to write the book, and the initial shock factor about writing the book was, first of all, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I have 3 stepsons, I have 6 grandkids, I have 2 nieces and a nephew that I also play an active role in their lives, and I'm working full time, and now you expect me to write a book. You are all crazy, I am not writing a book. This is never gonna happen. But then I was suffering from FOMO, so I decided, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna participate because I don't wanna be left out, right? And I was thinking, like, what am I gonna write about? What has impacted my life? What are some of the most important things? And what resonated with me, actually, it had to do with an impact talk that I had done for SIA a couple of years before. And it was talking about diversity initiatives And I was talking about my parents migrating here. So I started thinking about that story and then started thinking about my journey. And two things that resonated with me was the power of immigration and mentorship. So when I look at the power of immigration, when I gave the book to my mom, and Lauren has heard me say this, I wrote to her in Italian, so we're of Italian descent. You would have never guessed it by the name. So my mom, I said, you know, in Italian, I said, Mom, my father passed away years ago. I said, Mom, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity for coming to this country and really providing the way for my sister and I to have a future. If not, I might still be in Sicily and, I don't know, maybe stomping grapes and making wine. I have no idea what I would have been doing if I was still living in the little town of Sicily.
It doesn't sound like a bad life.
No, it doesn't. Actually, now, in hindsight, maybe that would have been a better life. But no, but to have the opportunity to be here. My parents migrated in 1958, and they came with a little girl. She would have been my older sister. She was 3.5 years old, and she passed away from a tonsil operation. They then try to have a second child, and she passed away. So my mother was dying to go back to Italy and wanted to be with her mom at that point in time. But my dad had this inner strength, and I call it the inner superpower, the determination that he was going to make it in New York, right? That's where we were residing. And so it was that passion and that determination that I actually think is integrated into the fabric of my sister's being and my being as far as how we approach life. So why am I so passionate about immigration? I also think it's kind of sad, when you take a look at how immigration is viewed today in the world, it's almost a negative. But meanwhile, if you think back generations ago, our country was built on immigrants. My father came as a tailor, and he worked 3 jobs to be able to provide, for his family, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. The other aspect was the power of mentorship, right? When I sat and I thought about all the people that have played a role in my life, my father being my #1 mentor to start off, but then looking at every single person, the list was all men. So no, there's nothing wrong with that. They were wonderful people. I love them all dearly. I appreciate them, and I'm grateful that they were in my life. But one of the things that it highlighted was the women that I did encounter in my life always kept me at arm's length. Anna, you're asking too much. Anna, why are you going for that? Like, stay in your lane. Be happy with what you have. Why are you looking for more? So as I'm reflecting on what I'm going to write about in the book, the theme of Together We Rise became even more important and more critical to me. Because the fact is, why is it? Why does that happen? Why is there that interesting dynamic where there isn't that level of support? Is it competition? Is it jealousy? Is it that there's limited seats at the table, so therefore if I'm at that table, I'm not going to make room for another female at the table? So these are the interesting questions that kind of came up, and we could talk about more as we have our roundtable discussions as to how do we change that? And again, I think we change it by us making these types of comments and having these types of events where we can continue to raise awareness. But that's kind of how my journey from writing the book. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. How many of you have had conflict or felt, for lack of a better word, victim of another woman in the workplace? A lot of hands.
That is a lot of hands.
How many of you here have felt or had an experience where you have felt victimized by another woman? Whether it's at work or, that's a lot of hands. That's way too many hands.
Right, and hopefully you're not sitting with that woman that made you not feel so great, right?
No. Hopefully you are sitting with that woman. No, let me tell you that. I actually, after we wrote the book, I went around to a very small handful of women that I felt were adversaries. and I invited them to lunch. Not kidding. And after I had made the 2021 commitment, you know, one deliberate act a day, and really just pled and said, we are better together. And I can say, out of the, I think there were like 3 or 4 women that I invited to lunch, only one has never responded, and that's okay. There's going to be some, but what I decided is that I wasn't going to be part of the problem. Now, in my chapter, Becoming, it's this personal exploration. So in 2016, roughly, 2015, I lost my marbles. I mean, I had a full-on midlife crisis. And I don't know if I was watching too much Fixer Upper or what Chip and Joanna got under my skin, but I decided I needed a farm. And yeah, I know. I'd never farmed. I wouldn't know how to milk a goat at the time if you like literally showed me how to do it. I didn't know what a pygmy goat was. I didn't know, you know, I know way too much about goats now. But I bought the farm in 2016. And we looked and looked, we looked and we looked and we looked and we searched. And I really thought, I was in this perfectly fine cul-de-sac with a perfectly fine life with my 2 girls and my husband. And, you know, it was like the ticky-tacky thing, you know, you remember the introduction to Weeds, you know, the ticky-tacky thing, you know? If anybody watched that show, that I came into my cul-de-sac, went out to my cul-de-sac, came in, went out. And I felt all of a sudden, suddenly, and I've never been one who's had this, everybody talks about aha moments. For me, it's always been sort of the slow burning. But I continued to feel this weight, and life felt heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. And so I started going through this personal exploration, and my chapter, I tried, we were told we had, 3,200 words or something like that, and I was like, oh my God, I can't write 3,200 words, and then 8,000 words later, they were like, we really need to dial this back. But this was really about getting right with my priorities. The things that I owned had started to own me. And I felt this heaviness of material things. I felt this heaviness of I wasn't giving anything. There was something more. There was something different. There was, I can't explain it except for this just unsettled feeling. And so I started going through this. The farm was one part of it. And then, I took 17 bags of clothing, 200 pairs of shoes. Like, it was absurd how much personal clothing I had acquired over a period of time. Took it all down to women's empowerment in Sacramento, and then started to feel this weight lift. And then as we started to cultivate the farm, and I learned how to garden, and I learned how to, we learned all the things that happened on the farm with goats, and we have goats and sheep and chickens, and we have an absurd amount of animals now, but it was just really about letting go, simplifying, and learning how to enjoy the journey. I have always been one of those people, type A, let's go through the checklist. Can we just finish the checklist? But there's something to be said for enjoying the middle part, when there's nothing in your garden growing, and you're just watching it grow, which is what I did for the first 30 days, not really knowing that it took time, just watching the garden. Come on, Basil, we got this, you know, watching my herb garden over and over again. But the one thing that I started doing that made a permanent impact on my life was gratitude. It changed the way I look at other women. It changed the way that I looked at everything, and that gratitude practice. So now my gratitude practice has evolved. It used to be 3 things I was grateful for in the morning, 3 things I was grateful for. If any of you have ever tried the 5-minute journal, it's a great starting point. Now I need a little bit more. It's like I got the gratitude fix, and now I just want a little bit more. So now I have my gratitude, and then there's what went right in the day. So I'm focusing on the things that are going right. And in my chapter, and this was the thing I was the most afraid to write about, because when you put it out there, it's out there in perpetuity. And I wanted to talk about my relationship with women, because it wasn't great. I had a number, I can tell you in my 25-year career, there are 2 women in 25 years that were supportive, contributive, and ally-ish, you know? That's not enough. We need more than that. And so I set out on a journey to write about some of those relationships, and I'll tell you one of those stories. So I had a boss who decided to call me on her birthday. It's her birthday. I'm gonna get a phone call. Hey, how you doing? All the niceties. And she called to tell me that my cheery disposition, you can see I'm a happy person. My natural state is optimism. And I like bright things, bright clothing, whatever it is. If I could have sparkly sneakers on, I have probably a few too many pairs of sparkly sneakers. But I am a bubbly personality. But she called me on her birthday, which seems odd, to tell me that my cheery disposition would never get me anywhere. That I would never be taken seriously as a leader, that I would never be accepted in a boardroom, and that it was unprofessional. And you know, I think that hurt more than any piece of feedback I've had over 25 years. I mean, I've gotten the, you're not selling enough, you're not doing enough, you know. Anybody who's carried a bag or been a salesperson, right, you know, you're only as good as your last sale. You know, we're accustomed to all of that. And we've dealt with we'll call them non-allies in our professional careers, inappropriate behavior, what have you. You've dealt with all of that. But what I didn't expect was the feeling that I felt after that phone call. And it was of complete and total defeat. This feeling that I will never be accepted, and that I would never be good enough, and that who I am needs to change, right? That's a very scary feeling. So what did I do? I said, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day. Why did I not lose my mind on this woman? I have no idea. But I said, thank you so much for taking the time out of I know your busy day, to give me that feedback. I'm gonna take that feedback and I'm gonna do something with it. So thank you so much, you know. And then I proceeded to, you know, as soon as the phone hung up. And you know what I did? I muted myself. I was like Dorothy in the beginning before the Munchkins. It was black and white. I black and whited all my emails. My sign off was respectfully, right? Instead of usually I'm like cheerfully, with gratitude, kick ass, awesome, you know. But they were all, I muted myself. And it was a terrifyingly disconnecting feeling. So getting over that, here's the good news. I was laid off from that company, right? It sucked at the time, and you know what? When you're laid off, it feels like just another form of rejection. And so all of that's happening. So I'm a glass case of emotions. But you know what? I decided to take a risk, bet on myself. I now sit on 5 boards. So I don't think that my personality has compromised my ability to sit on a board. I run a very successful firm. I replaced my corporate income my first year, signed my first $1 million deal. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. We doubled revenue. We're on our way to tripling revenue, hired my 4th person, and we'll be at year 3 in March. So you know what? Suck it, whoever said that.
Oh my God, I love that. I can hear this story literally a million times, and every single time I get goosebumps, because it's the reality of sometimes we are our biggest enemy. Right? Our biggest challenge, right? And like I share a story in the book about I'm talking myself out of going for a job promotion. And I'm living at home with my parents at the time. And my dad hears me, kind of walks by my room. He's like, what's going on in there? And I said, well, there's this job. I really want this job. And I described the job to him. But I'm not qualified. I don't have half the things that they're looking for. So all he says to me is, did you talk to your manager? And I just look at him like, no, I didn't talk to him. What? You want me to tell? He's like, what's the worst that can happen? He's going to tell you, you're not qualified. This is what you need to do to, get to this level. Or you might have a fabulous opportunity. Like, why are you talking yourself out of it? So it was kind of like, when you see cartoons and the sky opens up and the light is shining through. It was like, oh, exactly, right? So I'm like,
we did that on the stage, it's planned.
Right? So now I'm like, okay, I'm going to go for it. Sure enough, I wind up getting the job. And I was so grateful that my father actually heard me convince myself that I wasn't eligible for the job. But again, it's like we were our biggest enemy.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. 98% of job postings. Now I'm going to throw some industry statistics. We're in the staffing industry, which kind of touches everything, right? It's employment. We're in the employment industry. 98% of job postings out in the world are written with masculine bias. A woman will only apply to a job that she feels she is 95% qualified for. Now, what are the odds of a woman applying to that job if 98% are written with masculine bias? So we have work to do. COVID took women back to 1988 with women participating in the workforce. So we have work to do in supporting one another. And where I sit now, we don't have time to be like this with one another. We don't have time to be in conflict with one another. And so these conversations, whether in our industry or outside of our industry, this is a rally cry. Almost the entire room raised their hand when I asked if there was ever conflict with another woman. And so what I want you to do now, we have 4 minutes left. I want to make sure you know every woman sitting at your table. And what I want you to do is I want you to...
Or man.
Or man. Or man. But what I want you to do is I want you to take 2 minutes to randomly compliment a woman sitting at your table. So go ahead. Think about something that you're going to compliment one another about. Go ahead. I like your shoes. Your hair is on fleek.
Right.
In a second. Yes.
Here we go.
Hug each other.
Yes.
For the love of God. All right. Do we have our compliments?
Thank God you can whistle. All right, ladies and gents.
All right. Let's bring it back in because we're going to go through a round table again. All right. You guys got your compliments chambered? This is how it begins. This is how women rise.
Yes.
You have to be able to step outside of yourself, and we need male allies too. I see you back there. Now I do.
Right there.
I did it
Right
before,
there.
and over
Yeah.
here.
Right there.
Yes. But this is how it begins. One small step at a time. Okay, shh, shh, shh. I need to be like a kindergarten teacher. What is that? Okay.
Exactly.
All right, good. All right, so this is where it begins. This is where it begins. Looking at the woman sitting next to you and being totally unencumbered with how you feel about them, giving them a hug, telling them they look beautiful. I am now that weirdo that's like, hey, oh, you look really beautiful today. I know you're a total stranger, but That's how it starts. That's how we perpetuate women supporting women. It's with the small things, the little things, the things that you notice. And so I want you, everybody here, raise your hand and say, I am committed to one deliberate to one deliberate act a day.
One deliberate act a day.
To help another woman rise.
To help another woman up.
Yes.
Amen. Amen. And now think about this. Think about this. We're all here, we're as adults having this conversation, but imagine having this conversation in elementary school, in middle school, in high school. Right, you've all seen
me.
Right, you've seen the movie Mean Girls. That's really out there. The level of bullying, right? Because you don't fit into what the perfect box is supposed to look like. We can make a difference by sharing this message. And one of the things that we're passionate about is bringing it into the school system, because we can make a difference.